Hello Stargazers and welcome to Devlog number 2. So I'm Jimmy and this is Elphaba and we've got an action-packed update for you. So yeah, I might put her down though because I think she's probably not, probably too distracting. Anyway, so yeah, I figured I'd do something a bit different this time and this is a bit of a different format from last time. I've got stuff to show you, so I thought it would be cool to try and do a screen share. I'm just desperately trying to do something that makes sure that I don't have to do any video editing, because I just know that I just won't do that. So, okay, to get things started, I'll tell you that I've got a new name for the app. It was previously kind of just operating under the name Project Cosmic, and I came up with the name Kosmos with a K. It turns out I already actually have that domain. I bought a load of space-related names a few years ago for a different project. And yeah, I just kind of felt like it fitted really well. So I'll give you a quick glimpse of what it's like on the tablet here. So as you open up the app, it basically, it's got a nice kind of responsive UI. So let me see if I can turn off rotation lock. So it kind of works in different orientations. Oop. Did I turn off? Maybe it was already off. Ah, yeah, it was already off. So basically, this is kind of like on phone mode, and this is kind of more like desktop mode. So yeah, let me try and switch to a screen share, and I will kind of go through it in a little bit more detail. Okay. Hopefully this is all working. I have no idea. Okay, cool. I think it is. Okay, so this is basically a Mac build of the app. I'm using the Flutter framework, which means that it's really easy for me to kind of deploy to different platforms. This kind of surprisingly works really well on the web as well. It wasn't kind of a deployment target that I originally had in mind, but it is pretty cool for a computer to just be able to kind of dial into it, and basically people in the future will be able to access their cloud-based charts and things. So I'm gonna run through this. I'll start with saying, a lot's changed. It looks very different from the last time that you saw it. The chart here obviously is considerably more detailed than it was. I actually think it's pretty unclear at the moment. I need to do more work to kind of tidy that up, but that's very kind of like superficial surface level, so that's fine. The premise of the app is that essentially it allows you to explore astrology. There's going to be ways that you can like create charts, and basically the app will give you notifications when timing events happen, when transits occur, interesting aspects are formed within your chart, but also just a way of actually kind of exploring. So, and nothing kind of demonstrates that as well as actually just kind of showing you how tactile it feels. You can just pick up the chart and actually start dragging it, and you can see that the time is changing at the top right here. So, and you can basically just rotate it all the way around. Oh, something weird seems to be going on there with the rotation. No, it's fine. You can see the planets are moving around as I'm changing the time. I'm actually scrobbling backwards here. For those of you that don't know what an astrological chart is, this is basically an astrological chart. Let me just zoom back to present day, present moment. Okay, so what you're seeing there is the planetary bodies, or not all planetary bodies actually, the celestial bodies moving back into position, and you notice that they rotated round clockwise. This is because this represents what's called the ecliptic. This line on the left where it says AS, this is the line of the ascendant. So this is kind of like your eastern horizon where the planets rise up. So if we kind of rewind, let's pull this down here. So you can see here that approximately like 11 minutes past 4 in basically universal time, which isn't actually the same as where I am now because I'm in the UK and we have daylight saving time. So that would actually be 5 a.m. The sun was rising, and that's what you can see there. This symbol here means the sun, which you can see also on this chart to the right. You can then kind of like see that as the day progresses. This is quite hard actually dragging with my mouse. Let me just demonstrate here as the day progresses. So this is basically I'm using a tool here. This is what I call in the app shuttling, which is basically just moving through time. Kind of took the concept from like shuttling through a video. So yeah, you can basically, I'm animating through here, and you can see here that it's about to meet this line here called the MC. This is the midhaven point, and this is basically the highest point on the ecliptic plane, which is basically like the zodiacal belt, which passes overhead. It's like this is the highest point it will reach all day, and then basically it will kind of continue moving down here, and then eventually it's going to get to this point here. Oops, gone past it. This point here, which is the descendant, and that's it basically setting on the west. I can kind of demonstrate that as well if I show you here. This is basically my observation point, where you can see essentially the sun here is just about to. This is my location here, as demonstrated on the map, and this line here of yellow demonstrates my horizon line. You can see the sun here is about to actually exit my horizon line, and that's the same thing as we're seeing on the astrological chart here. And you can see as I move the sun down and through, it passes over that horizon line, and then basically it's out. You know, it's now on the other side of the planet. Not essentially, not directly the opposite, but essentially no longer within 90 degrees latitude or longitude of my current position. Actually, sorry, it's 90 degrees longitude, 45 degrees latitude, isn't it? Oh, sorry. I'm new to all this. I'm trying to learn how to kind of, I've literally got giant tomes of astrology that I'm trying to kind of like teach myself about all of this stuff. So apologies if I make any astrological faux pas. Yeah, so this is, I just noticed actually that it did something kind of weird with if I click here, you can see that I can basically move between these projections. But when it actually settled, I seem to lose the blend-in mode. That's something weird that's only specific to this build on the Mac. You don't get that on the mobile build. So I think it's some sort of caching thing. So I will be raising an issue on the Flutter boards about that. Oh, there we go. It's just done it again. But anyway, sorry, back to, so this is the chart. This is what it kind of represents. And the idea is that you can essentially, take meaning from the positions of these bodies. So what you would probably want to do is let's set this to my date of birth. So we'll go back to, not that far, it is a long way, but not quite that far. Okay, there. And, oh God, I'm not used to using it on a mouse. Usually you just drag with your finger. Okay, so February. Okay, so this is zooming back. Oh God, it's zooming back 40 years. We just saw 40 years animated there. So you can see now here, this is my time of birth and my location of birth. This is now showing you that, oh, sorry, I was going to say, I don't quite know why everything's out in the wrong place. That's not my time of birth. My time of birth is 3 a.m. There we go. I was like, why is the sun above the descendant? Okay, so that makes more sense. I have a night chart. This is really important in sect when you come to kind of like interpreting stuff. It gives certain planets more prominency. So the moon might speak more about me than the sun, because the sun is really well on the other side of the planet really at this point for me. So you can see here, and what happens is, I'm not going to go into too much detail about astrological charts because that's not what this is about. You can kind of go away and find out about this stuff yourself if you're interested. But the chart is broken into 12 different areas, one representing you, yourself, and then it kind of continues round here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way back down around to 12. Each one of those represents a different area of your life. The planets that are in those at the time of your birth kind of speak to who you will be as a person and who you will become. And that's basically the premise of astrology. In the middle there, we have basically something called aspects. So this is kind of when planets make interesting angles to each other. So the kind of strongest, the most positive angle that a planet can make to another planet would be basically a trine, which is a triangle. And you can see I've got a tab here called the aspectarian. So you can see here that there's a trine in my chart, and it's basically the moon is separating. It's currently 3 degrees off a trine with Saturn. So and then you can actually kind of look on here, and you can see there, and you've got this green line that's indicating that happens there. Now, it's saying here harmony, ease, flow, talent, and luck. Now, that is just keywords that the app has associated with the trine, and we also have a mild trine down here between the moon and Mars. And it's got the same words there, so I need to do better there, and that's really where kind of the AI is going to come into all of this. The AI is going to give you really specific readings and interpretations based on actual positions. You know, is it a day chart? Is it a night chart? What houses are they in? You know, who's it sharing its residency with? Right now, a lot of this is kind of filler, but you can kind of click onto this and you can read about it. You can see basically the moon is separating. This, I mean, all this information is correct, but down here you can see essentially lorem ipsum. Just this is what developers do to kind of pad an app out, to kind of put content in there where there isn't actually content. But what we will find here in the future is like a real rich piece of information all about that particular aspect of my chart. You can see that my app is kind of ranking aspects in terms of intensity. So up at the top here, it's deemed this to be the most intense aspect of my chart. I've got an intense square, which is basically between the Sun and Saturn. And intensity is based on the aspect that is basically is happening. So in this case, it's a square, which is, you know, quite a challenging aspect. And then also the planets that are aspecting. The slower the planet is, generally the more intense the aspect will be. You know, planets, you know, like for instance, this is with Saturn, and essentially Saturn takes 30 years to go once around your chart. So you can imagine that basically things that aspect with Saturn have a lot more gravitas than something that's aspecting with a moon, which circulates every day. So, and then if you start getting things like, you know, Saturn and Neptune on, you know, things, you get really kind of potent combinations. And these actual aspects can go on for days, weeks, you know, sometimes years. And there's basically what's called like an aspect sequence that the app will visualize all of this for you and kind of give you a really kind of good understanding of it. You can see already that I'm kind of like exposing quite a lot of information where I can. I want the app to be as transparent with all the information as it can be. And where I'm using AI, I don't want it to, you know, I don't want it to be like a magic 8-ball where you just get an answer and it's left for yourself to kind of interpret what that, you know, how has the app actually kind of come up with that? It doesn't matter. Let's, you know, it's almost like kind of a fortune in a cookie. I want this to be something where you can, you know, you can click into things and see, okay, this is the general themes of a square. These are the general themes of the Sun squaring Saturn. And this is where I am in that cycle. And this is how it's come to this conclusion. So I want to kind of, you know, have that paper trail all the way throughout the app. So the other, you know, part of the UI at the moment is that you can see the ecliptic positions. Again, this is, there's lots of filler here. It says planet placement key themes. This will be kind of information based on the Sun is currently sat in Capricorn. And, you know, it's at 20 degrees, 59 minutes. And it's in Capricorn, and that's in my second house. And it will actually kind of give me, you know, the key themes of that. I'm kind of quite liking the idea of it giving key themes rather than full-on astrological interpretations. It could do that. I think it will do that, but it won't probably do that just at this point in the app. This will be more for when you're actually kind of like having it give you an interpretation. So yeah, so basically I've kind of mentioned about, I've showed you the chart, I've showed you the shuttling. We've had a look at the aspectarium, the ecliptic positions, this observation point. So this is basically, again, it's just different ways of visualizing. It's like what I call like the cosmic snapshot. So it's basically like where everything is in the sky, you know, at a specific time. These are different ways of shuttling, so you can basically shuttle by, a minute at a time if you just want to kind of go really precisely, and you kind of perhaps you're watching an ecliptic position, and you're kind of waiting for something that's just, I don't seem to have anything on, on the cusp there. But as you're doing this, you can actually see the animating values here of the ecliptic positions, or maybe you're watching an aspect, and I think with an aspect we might need to go a little bit, let's go an hour at a time, but you can see these aspects are changing. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And one thing that you can't really see with me showing you the app on the screen share, let me just flick back onto this. So basically, when you're actually using it on a phone, I'll try and show you it here. You can actually, as you're rotating it, it gives you feedback. So every 5 degrees, I don't know if you can hear that, but every 5 degrees you get a bit of haptic feedback. So it feels really good as you're kind of like scrobbling through. And basically, one thing I'm struggling to do with my mouse is basically you can just keep rotating it. So sort of probably easier doing this on my tablet, but you can see you can just keep rotating. Whoops. Round and around and around. So if you want, you can sit there and kind of, wind on a month or something. But it's a really interesting way to actually kind of like, gauge what is actually happening. One of the other cool things that I've kind of been discovering as well is that there's so many different schools of thought when it comes to astrology. I mean, even these aspects, these are basically based on something called orbs, which is basically the way, it's kind of like the net that you cast for the aspect. It's like the tolerance levels. People have like there's different schools of thought for different types of aspects. The general consensus is that for these minor aspects, people give a lot less worth. But then some kind of, influential astrologers point out that basically this is the wrong way around, and actually some of these are the most powerful and potent aspects that you can get. So there's so many different settings that people need to cater for, and that's one thing that I'm kind of trying to take very seriously with the app. So up here you've got your astrology settings. And this is kind of a really cool thing. I mentioned last time I was kind of just dipping my toe into all of the astrology side of things last time we did the Devlog one, but I was talking about the difference between sidereal and tropical zodiacs. And basically tropical is what everyone knows, and up until this project I thought I was an Aquarius, and then I realized when I use sidereal astrology, I'm actually a Capricorn, like a sun sign Capricorn. And I can demonstrate that for you if let me just reset this back to where we were. So, pop that there. Okay. And then if you just notice here, the sun is currently in Capricorn at 59 degrees. And if I go and turn this to a tropical zodiac, you can now see the sun is actually in Aquarius at 30 degrees. Now that's like, and this is because essentially when the Greeks kind of changed the way that the tropical zodiac was created and basically formed, it has gradually become out of sync due to the wobble of the Earth's axis. And I think it's something like 61.7 years. The sun will basically be at a different point in the sky during the solstice, when the chart is kind of reset and you've got Aries at 0 degrees. So because of that, 2,000 years have passed and we're off by, I think, 24 or something degrees. And that is just demonstrated here. So, but that's, again, something that is kind of not quite nice to actually kind of visualize in the chart. And the other things that you can visualize is basically like the house systems. So you can see here, these yellow lines here are what are called the house cusps. So these are the way, in fact, I'll just put that onto a day and you can see how it moves. You can see it's kind of this weird animation. And that's basically to do with really my position on Earth, which is having the quite a high latitude there, being in the northern hemisphere. You can basically see and you can actually see in the animation as it rotates around, it's kind of got almost like a lean to it. almost like a cam rather than kind of a sphere or circle. That's kind of a cool thing to visualize. And then what you can do here is on the astrology settings is you can kind of change all of these details. So we can basically, a real popular school of, an old ancient way of dividing up the houses is called whole sign house system. So I've just switched on to that now, and you can see how different the chart now animates. So if I basically just pick it up and drag it, you can see, there's a slight bug there that basically it has just applied the whole sign house system as we can see down here, but for some reason the first interaction reverted back to whatever it was previously. That's a bug, I'm aware. I will resolve that. I basically just re-implemented this thing last night, but you can see here now as I'm rotating it, what's happening is the degrees are all changing for the planets and the ecliptic positions. And in fact, you can see it on this map here as well to the right that the planets are still moving, but the chart looks very different because essentially the chart is now anchored to the first cusp, which is here. And you can see when the ascendant reaches that cusp, oh God, it's a nightmare dragging with this. Oh, there we go. Okay, as you reaches that cusp, what happens is everything then moves along one. So basically it's a really different way to kind of visualize a chart. And actually, if we animate now a day, you can see basically like, it just looks very different, visually very different, but kind of also really cool to just explore these kind of things. Like this is the whole sign house system, like animated. And if you're actually using a device that's, you know, allows for it, you can kind of do that. Let me try and demonstrate that as well on here. This would be better. Oops. Ignore pictures of He-Man. Okay. Right. So, whoops. So if I set that on here, whole sign houses, you can see here now, whoops, it's just a very interesting tactile way to explore the different schools of thought for astrology. So you've also got, you know, equal houses. So this is similar to whole sign houses, but actually it's not, you know, it's no longer anchored to the first house cusp. This is a really bad way of demonstrating this. I'm going to put this down. Anyway, I feel like I'm waffling, so I will try and wrap up where we're up to. I've shown you, like, let me click onto here. I've shown you pretty much where I'm up to in the app. I've recently just added a bit of information about the app. Change log, so you can kind of see what I'm changing, stuff that I'm working on. So next things to come. So the reason I've been really wanting to get a quick devlog video up because I did hope to kind of have a little bit of a diary as to, you know, creating this app from zero and launching it into the wild. But as it's transpired, you know, I've had quite a busy few weeks and I've not had chance, and I just thought I wanted to get something out there before I move really heavy into the AI stuff. So the AI stuff is coming next. The next step after that is basically the authentication and cloud saving of charts. I really want basically in terms of the astrological stuff, I really want to get some cool timing stuff in there. I really want to do transits and do transits really well. I think that will be really interesting. Basically, transits are like essentially when you have those aspects that we were talking about, but instead of happening against a snapshot, which is your natal chart, it's happening against the current planetary positions back versus your natal chart. And basically, transits are super interesting things that let you kind of see, you know, like you could put in perhaps, I like the idea that I'm going to let people mark significant dates in their life. Perhaps this is the date I got married. This was the date that maybe you had a child, or this was the date that, I don't know, times of significance, but also not only for the past, and then you can really study the sky back then. What was happening? What were my transits? Oh wow, I had this really challenging transit from perhaps like Mars or something. But then you can also look for it in the future and basically put future dates that have not yet come to pass and just use it as a bit of a kind of a really cool forecasting tool and have all that whole transit sequence that I mentioned, kind of touched on earlier. You know, like we were talking about kind of the Saturn transit and how basically, you know, a Saturn solar return would basically take 30 years, and you can basically, break that down into, well, it's kind of, like I think it's more like 28 years, but you can kind of break that down into kind of groups of 7 years at a time, where and basically plot what happens. And that basically 7 years into a new kind of like Saturn solar return, that you're going to basically, I think, be starting to apply a square aspect against your original natal chart. And then that's got real significance, and you can kind of just make all this information available to people. The AI interpretations is where I'm going to go big on next. And then, I've really realized actually that this project for this Gemini competition is kind of like a 3-part project. I have like the astrology aspect, which is kind of like sums up here. And that has been the bit that I've kind of been struggling with most, I guess, because as an absolute novice astrologer, I've been learning a lot of this stuff from ground zero, really. Then you've kind of got the AI part of it, and I've got a fair bit of experience working with AI on some of my other projects. I've been doing a lot of testing with this stuff, and AI, has been used for a lot of this, and I've been using it like as an assistant while I'm actually kind of learning all of these astrological concepts, as well as in my IDE for coding, but actually kind of giving it a direct, voice through the app is kind of the next stage. And then the third part of this project is actually the app's implementation, and that's also been really, it's kind of had its own little kind of journey, where I kind of created this app really quickly originally. And it was kind of doing all of these calculations kind of in real time, and as a result, it was kind of a little bit sluggish on certain devices. And I just knew that I really wanted this app to just feel like butter, like just really tactile, and just be like almost kind of like, wait, how is it calculating everything so quickly? And to do that, I've kind of had to, I've redeveloped this. I think this is kind of the third implementation. So the first version came very quickly, and it was quite slow and sluggish. The original implementation of my tactile chart was that basically you would kind of wind it up like a clockwork watch, and then you would let it go, and it would basically animate it in front of you. And that was really quite cool aesthetically and visually, but it wasn't very practical. And then it just kind of occurred to me, actually, wouldn't it just be better if you could just wind time in real time and see it actually? And that was kind of, that's the kind of the experience I actually was looking for. And so I kind of found that the long way. The second iteration was where I'm challenging myself to use as much interesting stuff as I can with this. So I'm going, really, I'm using all of the kind of latest and greatest features of the Dart language, the Flutter platform, and one of those that I went down was basically using Riverpod for state management. And the second implementation, I kind of rewrote everything to work with Riverpod. And that was kind of cool. It wasn't rewriting everything. I refactored everything to work with that. But I just realized that actually, like, there was just, it's fantastic. And I think this isn't a slight against the Riverpod package. It was probably my misunderstanding of how to correctly harness it, but it was doing quite a lot of magic under the hood that was kind of causing performance problems. So I kind of reverted that and went kind of back to my own handling of states using kind of change notifiers. And I've really worked to kind of get the app running, so smoothly. It occurred to me that actually I don't need to calculate everything over and over again. I can basically I can interpolate between charts, and that's what I've kind of done, which has kind of given me the performance that is as strong as it is. But it did run into its own kind of issue where you kind of had things like this. So when I basically now shift, I'll put it back onto a chart system. I'll move back off whole sign. And when you would shift basically, for instance, a year, what you would expect to see here on this observation snapshot is basically this here is called the solar terminator. It's like the night-day line. You can see currently this particular date leads us in darkness. What you would expect, you can see that the night is shifted towards the northern hemisphere. So basically that means the southern hemisphere is getting longer days and we're getting shorter nights at the top. But originally when I was interpolating, just like, from point A to point B, when I would shuttle an entire year, I don't know if that happened too quickly for you to notice, but basically the day-night solar terminator shifted from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere. And you can kind of see that if I go, in a month. So you can see there, I've just shuttled 2 months on. In fact, let me take us to present day. So you can just tap up at the top here, or you can use this button here to go back to present day. So here we can see here that now currently it is the end of July in the UK. We're in summer, so you can see here that the night is the night solar terminator is kind of leaning on the southern hemisphere. And as we kind of move on here, 1 month at a time, you can see this line here. Oh, that's pretty much perfect. If I just kind of stop it here, that's kind of I could kind of like keep shuffling around. And what I'm trying to do here is get this solar terminator to be perpendicular. And you can kind of, no, it's going the other way now, isn't it? You can kind of figure out exactly when the equinox is going to be. I mean, I could do that anyway in code, but it's kind of cool to be able to visually do that. But the point that I'm saying is that when I was interpolating originally, and you would skip around a year, you wouldn't actually see that animation of. So you lost, and the solar terminator is not actually that interesting. But what is interesting in an astrology app is actually kind of that tilt of the Earth as you kind of transition a day, or the way that if I transition a month, it's spinning around there so fast that it's hard to see. And I am going to kind of have a mode where you can kind of like anchor it and basically say I know the Earth's spinning, but let's pretend it wasn't for a moment, or let's spin relatively with it and just see the planets move, because interesting things happen, like planets go retrograde. If we can see that here on this chart right now, Saturn and Uranus in a retrograde. So if we watch them, where are they? So they're going to be moving so slowly. I guess Saturn is going to be moving probably, I think, the quickest there. So there's Saturn there. So if we just, it's going to be too hard to see. You can see here, it's basically approaching. It's about a degree away from Aquarius. So if I just fast forward, let's fast forward a day. I don't think we'll see. Okay, so we're going to need to go way faster than that. So let's go a month. Okay, so, okay. So it is actually kind of come towards Aquarius, which is not what I was expecting to see. Oh, because I think if it's going retrograde, it does move clockwise, whereas I think if it's going direct motion, it moves anti-clockwise through the zodiac signs. Anyway, you get the idea. There's lots of interesting things happening that you would lose if basically you just interpolate. So basically, I've kind of developed a system that kind of breaks the chart down into kind of like animation frames, interpolates between those, which kind of, and that's kind of constantly happening as you're actually kind of shuttling through time using this, using your finger here. Finger here, I'm using the mouse cursor badly. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up because I've waffled on for way too long. I hope this gives you a really good idea of where I'm up to with Kosmos, and I'm really excited to continue working on it. And the competition, I have to have this submitted, I think, in like 3 weeks or 2 weeks or something. So there's going to be loads of changes. The next update is going to have loads more kind of AI built into it. I'm kind of feeling like now, like, this is definitely going to be an app that I am going to kind of continue after the competition. Originally, it was just like, let's make something quick and fun for the competition. Now I'm like, this is actually really interesting. I feel like there's quite a lot I can do here. So like, I am going to continue doing this. But I'm kind of now thinking, right, okay, I need to submit this app to the app stores, like probably in the next 2 days. So what can I strip out of this? What can I put in this to kind of make this? That's why I put this like, it feels a bit early to be putting this kind of stuff in here. But like the reality is that I just need to get this submitted to the app stores because in 3 weeks time, it needs to be kind of like judged. So yeah, it's going to change a lot in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And hopefully you'll be able to download it from the app stores, like maybe next week or something. Awesome. Thanks very much. Okay, take care. Bye.